Good afternoon to our dear media friends. Let's please welcome our moderator for today's press conference, Ms. Jika Dalupan.
Hello, everybody. It's almost noon, so I would say good morning and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming to our press conference today. We know that despite the short notice that you were able to come and make the time to listen to what we have to share with you this morning. So my name is Jika Dalupan. I will be your moderator for today's proceedings. At this point, I would just like to recognize the presence of our executives from Tiger Resort Leisure and Entertainment Inc. So you have our executives present here. We also have representatives from Divina Law, the councils for the company, as well as Ocampo, Manalo Law offices are also present here with us. Most of all, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our media friends. Specifically, I will just make a rundown of the different media outfits who are here. So we have our friends from TV5, Philippine Daily Inquirer, UNTV, Manila Times, Reuters, Business World, ABS-CBN, Esquire, Manila Shimbun, Nikkei, and Business Mirror. So they are present here with us in person. So thank you so much for taking the time to come here. But we do also have our media friends online. So we're doing a hybrid press conference today. So they are joining us via Zoom. And I would like to recognize also representatives from Manila Shimbun, Manila Standard, Manila Bulletin, GMA News Online, Kyodo News, and Daily Tribune. So I hope I did not miss out on anyone else, but please, I would like to ask the team to let me know if there are other media outfits that I failed to mention. But sincerely, thank you very much for being here with us. So to start off our press conference, I would like to call the co-vice chairperson of TRLEI, Mr. Michiake Satate, for his opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for our friends in the media. We thank you again for coming in such short notice to our press briefing today. I'm certain that you're all aware by now about the intra-corporate dispute between the usurper Kazuo Okada and us, the legitimate board of TRLEI, over the management of Okada Manila. What should have been a battle rightly fought in the courts all came to a head and in the public eye when the group of Kazuo Okada, led by former board member Tony Boyko Juanco and former executive Dindo Espeleta, illegally took over the premises of Okada Manila last May 31, 2022, employing brute force and intimidation to demand the legitimate board members of TRLEI to vacate the premises. We, the lawful and parent-recognized board, would like to give you a brief background and some updates on what is happening today. The claim that the Kazuo Group's takeover was peaceful is far from the truth. You will hear today from our officers and lawyers, some of whom are well advanced in age, on how they were manhandled. Amidst the lies that it was a peaceful and orderly takeover, you will see from video evidence how they employed such force in their desire to take over the operations of Okada Manila. And it is exactly the continuing operations of the property that we worry about, despite the physical aggravation that the TRLEI board has suffered. At this moment, it is an illegitimate board and set of officers who are running the business and giving directions to our 5,000 strong employees. We have heard of reports that several employees were asked to leave. Some have been banned from the premises, while the rest were coerced and left with no choice but to follow lest or they lose their jobs. Prior to the takeover, we were optimistic on the company's growth following the recovery from the pandemic. Though we continue with our desire to keep the business afloat, the future of Okada Manila is now uncertain under the hands of dubious characters. Today, we're doing everything that we can to have this issue resolved immediately, as we don't want our guests, employees, and stockholders to suffer from Mr. Okada's greed. We'll exhaust all legal means to have this corrected as soon as possible. Today, we'll also like to give emphasis to the legality of the board recognized by the TRLEI's parent companies. We're recognized by our parent companies, Universal Entertainment Corporation and Tiger Resort Asia, as the true and legitimate board members of TRLEI. And to reaffirm this legality, Mrs. Takako Okada, my co-vice chairperson in TRLEI, will be sharing her statement via a voice recording. Mrs. Takako Okada is as well the board director of Universal Entertainment Corporation and Tiger Resort Asia Limited, representing 99.9% shareholders of TRLEI, the operator of Integrated Casino Resort Okada Manila. Thank you.
私、岡田貴子は本日、タイガーリゾートレジャー&エンターテインメントインクの 99.9% を所有している香港のタイガーリゾートアジアリミテッドの代表として宣言いたします。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Takako Okada. I represent Tiger Resort Asia Limited in Hong Kong, which owns 99.9% of Tiger Resort Leisure and Entertainment Inc.
まず最初に TRA はトニーボーイ・コアンコ氏のグループを取締役会として一切認めておりません。また、先週火曜日、2022年5月31日にオカダマニラで起きた暴力行為を強く非難いたします。
First of all, we at TRA never recognized the group of Mr. Tony Boy Coanco, and we condemn the violent acts that happened in Okada Manila last Tuesday, May 31, 2022.
そしてフィリピン政府がこのような危険な行為を許さないことを願っており、このような状況は外国人投資家にとって好ましい環境とは言えないのではないかと心配しております。
I am hopeful that the Philippine government will not allow such dangerous acts. I fear situations like this will not create a friendly environment for foreign investors.
私たちはフィリピンに来て多くの人と出会い、人々の笑顔と優しさに触れ、この国の未来に強い希望を感じました。だからこそ、このフィリピンの地を選び、この施設、オカダマニラがフィリピンのシンボルの一つになることを願いながら、一大プロジェクトを進めてまいりました。
We came to the Philippines, met many people, saw the smiling faces and kindness of the people, and felt a strong sense of hope for the future of this country. That is why we have chosen this place and proceeded with a major project, hoping that our facility, Okada Manila, will become one of the symbols of the Philippines.
オカダマニラで働く多くの従業員や訪れるお客様がいつも笑顔でいられる場所となるように、私たちは努力を続けてまいりました。そのため、今回のような理不尽な行為がその場で起きていることを思うと、とても胸が痛くなります。トニーボーイ・コアンコ氏のグループがこのような暴力行為ではなく、合法的かつ平和的な対応ができなかったことが残念でなりません。
We have been striving to make Okada Manila a place where the many people who work there and the guests who visit there can always keep smiling. However, seeing this time's unreasonable acts occurring in the same place is quite heartbreaking. It is unfortunate that the group of Tony Boy Coanco could not have responded in a lawful and peaceful manner instead of using force like this.
本当にフィリピンのこと、岡田マニラで働く5000人以上の従業員のことを思っているのであれば、合理的かつ合法的な方法で臨むべきだったのではないでしょうか。
If they truly cared about the Philippines and the more than 5,000 employees working at Okada Manila, they should have come at us in a reasonable and lawful manner.
なお、従業員の皆さんが安心して仕事に取り組めるように、私たちの弁護士チームはこれらの問題の解決に全力で取り組んでおります。
Rest assured that our legal teams are now working on addressing these issues so that we can all go back to work in peace.
本日はお時間をいただきありがとうございました。
Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you very much. So we just heard the audio statement of Mrs. Takako Okada. We would like to thank her for giving her thoughts through a statement as a representative of the shareholders of Tiger Resort Asia Limited. So at this point, we have heard that indeed this is a battle rightly fought in the courts. And so we have here with us the legal counsel for TRLEI from Divina Law. Let us welcome Attorney Estrella El Amparo. Attorney Star for the updates, please. Thank you.
I have a statement from Mr. Hajime Tokuda. Should I first read it? Unfortunately, one of the complainants in today's filing of a criminal case, Mr. Hajime Tokuda, the one who was kidnapped last Tuesday, cannot make it today. So he asked me to read on his behalf the statement that he issued. Good morning, everyone. I am Hajime Tokuda, the director of Asia Best Group International and Universal Entertainment Corporation. In the couple of decades in my corporate life, I have never seen such violence, brutality, and force in any intercorporate dispute. But on May 31, I have not only witnessed it, I experienced it. That morning, we were informed that Tony Boy Coanco and Dindo Espeleta were on their way to Okada Manila to enforce the status quo ante order of the Supreme Court, purportedly to enforce. Our legal counsel had advised us that they had no authority whatsoever to occupy the premises, as there is nothing in the status quo ante order that says so. So we thought it was going to be peaceful. However, armed with around 50 men, including security guards, police officers, lawyers, and a sheriff, they stormed Okada Manila and used violence as their means to enforce, purportedly, the SQAO. They asked me to leave the premises, basically telling me that I was fired. Then they became violent. There was a lot of shouting, pushing, shoving, and I was manhandled. You can clearly see in the video that we will be showing later how my lawyers and other staff tried to protect me from the burly men of Mr. Kazuo Okada, but to no avail. There were also policemen who witnessed this brutality, and yet they watched idly while we were asking for help. I've never felt so helpless in my life. I was held on all sides like a dead body being removed from a crime scene. They took me against my will and brought me to the basement of Okada Manila. Fear, confusion, and anxiety filled my mind. I thought I was really having a bad dream. I was escorted by about 10 of their security guards. I tried to call my driver to pick me up, but after 20 minutes of waiting, the security personnel just hoisted me inside an unknown car. I begged them for us to wait for my driver, but they did not listen. Inside the car, there were 2 security guards beside me. I felt like I was a criminal being surrounded by officers just like in TV. I didn't know where they would bring me. They were talking, but because I cannot speak English very well, I did not understand them. As a Japanese national who relied mostly on my driver for navigation, I do not study my surroundings that much, but I am familiar with roads that we usually take. They drove on roads I am unfamiliar with, and I was so afraid for my life. In the end, I was brought back home and had a bit of peace of mind. When I arrived home, my family was crying because they were worried about me. This is probably one of the most traumatic events in my life. I felt so much fear. I was very anxious. I was so confused. All the pain caused by the men who manhandled me, all the sound of horror from the screams, the intimidation they employed when they suddenly cut off the electricity in the ballroom where we were located. No one deserved to be treated this way. Today, I still fear for my life and my family's life. We cannot even get out of our home for a few days because of the fear of being kidnapped. I hope that this will all be over very soon and that the law will prevail in this land. You now know that Kazuo Okada, Tony Boy Cojuangco, and Dindo Espeleta, you now know what they are capable of. They will use their influence in government to the point of violence to achieve their illegal aspirations. Let this be a warning to the public. Do not engage in business with these men. The most that they can do for you is what they did to me, violence. And that ends the statement of Tokuda-san.
Thank you, Attorney Starr. So, Attorney Starr just read to you the statement of Mr. Hajime Tokuda, Director of TRLEI. At this point, we would like to show you some video footages of what actually transpired last May 31. Thank you.
Again, you are using force and I have, sir, again, I am being pulled. For the record, all the police officers here, sir, I am, again, sir, again, I'm being ejected here out of my will using force and everyone can see in this morning, sir, again, I'm being escorted out against of my will by these people who are present. I am Attorney Patrick Alcantara from Divina Law and I'm currently being escorted away, sir. Again, sir, again, I'm being escorted away, sir. Sir, again, I do not, sir, again, sir, again, I am, for your name, by which and whose authority I'm not, for the record, yung kamay ko po, not being allowed to enter and private authority, sir, names, sir, currently being deprived of entrance to the premises of Hotel Okada as of this moment. Currently, these officers, without any authority and without any identification of some sort, fail to provide any reason for the deprivation of my entry inside this particular office. We would like to make it off record at this very moment through this video. Also, put on record that currently, yes, we're asking for the names. Again, asking for the names. Sir, name, sir.
There's a meeting. Why are you? Give your names. I'm sorry too. I'm counsel of TRLEI. I have every right to be here. I've been allowed by my client to be here.
Sir, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry din. Ate,
Ma'am.
I'm sorry din.
Ate,
I'm sorry din. Kayo yung mapapahamak dito. Siguraduhin ko yun. Kaya please. I'm sorry. Please. I'm lawyer for TRLEI. I'm sorry. I have every right to go.
Ate.
Hindi niyo po ako kaya.
Ay, hindi ko.
Hindi niyo po ako kaya.
Ate.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. Sorry po, ma'am.
Ate.
Hindi niyo ako kaya, ma'am. Sorry po. I'm sorry, ma'am. Sorry po.
Ate.
Abogado po ako.
Hanap ko
Ate.
push me.
Ate.
Ate. Pero po, ma'am, kayo po hanap po sa akin.
You're preventing me from doing my job.
Yan.
You're preventing me from doing my job.
Parehas na po tayo nagtatrabaho.
Oh, kaya nga.
Ate.
Parehas na po tayo nagtatrabaho. Excuse me. Pasensya na po.
Look. Come on. You're a disorder. Please.
Come on.
I know.
What are you doing?
Nagtatrabaho din po ako, ma'am.
Sir.
Kunin mo nga yung cellphone niya.
Sir.
Get your cellphone.
That's Mr. Hajime Tokuda as he was being kidnapped.
Okay, so what we have seen were actual footages taken last May 31st. So we know that, videos don't lie. So those were the events that took place at that time. So you have heard a lot also about some of the legal terms, such as the SQAO that has been really at the heart of this issue. So I'd like to call back Attorney Starr to give us more clarity on what this SQAO is all about. Attorney Starr.
Good morning again, everyone, or good afternoon. Before we can properly explain the SQAO, perhaps it's best for me to just give you a brief background of the entities involved in this case. So we have TRLEI, which is the corporation, the local corporation that operates Okada Manila. TRLEI is in turn 99.99% owned by Tiger Resorts Asia Limited, or we call it TRA. TRA is in turn 99% owned by UEC, Universal Entertainment Corporation, which is a foreign company. And the ultimate parent company in this case is Okada Holdings Limited, or OHL. OHL owns more than 60% or 2/3 of UEC. So when this case was filed by Mr. Okada, he was already removed by TRLEI as shareholder of the corporation. What happened was, prior to 2017, and this is the status prior to his removal, prior to 2017, Mr. Kazuo Okada held one share in the local company that operates Okada Manila, held one share in TRLEI. That one share actually did not belong to him. That one share that he held prior to June 2017 was owned by the mother company, TRAL. That was entrusted to him via a deed of trust, that one nominal share. In addition to being the nominee for that one share that he held, he was also the representative of TRAL in TRLEI. So, since TRAL owned 99.99% of TRLEI, plus Mr. Okada was nominee for one more share of TRAL, effectively Mr. Okada had control of TRLEI at that time. He was a shareholder, he was board member, and he was likewise the chairman of the board. However, in June 2017, the mother company, TRAL, revoked the deed of trust in favor of Mr. Kazuo Okada. So that one share was taken away from him by the owner of the share, TRAL. So 0 shares Mr. Okada at that point had no share whatsoever. Even his nomination as representative of TRAL was removed from him. Currently, the nominees or the representatives of TRAL in TRLEI are Mr. Kenshi Asano and Mrs. Takako Okada, whose voice you just heard a few minutes ago. So, Mr. Okada no longer had any participation, no longer had any right, no longer had any share in TRLEI. Now, instead of going to court to file an election contest to question the election of the new members of the board after his removal, Mr. Okada slept on his so-called rights. He did not file anything. Under our rules, he had to file an election contest within 15 days from the election of the board that he is questioning. He never did that. Instead, about 1 year afterwards, he filed a case with the Regional Trial Court of Parañaque, questioning his removal as shareholder and questioning the validity of the new board. Expectedly, because he had no right whatsoever to fight for, the case was thrown out by the Regional Trial Court of Parañaque. The case filed by Mr. Okada was dismissed. We should note that in that RTC case, Mr. Okada initially impleaded TRAL. Why? Because it is TRAL which actually owned the share, the single share that he was using. And it was TRAL which had earlier nominated him or gave him personality to be present in the board of TRLEI. Unfortunately, TRAL was never served summons by the local court. TRAL, as we know, is a foreign corporation. It was never served summons. And so, it is basic that if an entity is never served summons, it is basic that the courts, or local courts, will acquire no jurisdiction over that entity. So Mr. Okada lost. He went to the Court of Appeals. Again, he lost. The Court of Appeals affirmed the dismissal of his case. He filed a motion for reconsideration. And again, he lost. The MR was denied. And that was when he went to the Supreme Court via petition for review. And in that petition for review, he asked for the issuance of a temporary restraining order and a writ of preliminary injunction to restrain the current board from acting as such, because he's still claiming desperately that he is he was supposedly in control of TRLEI. The Supreme Court rightfully did not act on that prayer for TRO or writ of preliminary injunction, and the case slept for a while. However, last April, he suddenly filed a supplemental petition represented by a new counsel, Attorney Florentino Herrera. And in that supplemental petition he filed with the Supreme Court, he now asked for the issuance of a status quo ante order. His prayer was that the status prior to his removal as shareholder, board member, and chairman be restored. And he likewise prayed that his representation of TRAL, which was not a party to the case, which is not a party to the case, he likewise prayed that his representation of TRAL be restored. Now, last it was April 21, 2021, when the Supreme Court granted the status quo ante order. But if we look at the dispositive portion, and perhaps we can flash the dispositive portion, it is very clear from the dispositive portion of the SQAO, it only states, now therefore, effective immediately and continuing until further orders from this court, you, petitioner and respondents, your agents, representatives, or persons acting on your place or stead, are hereby required to observe the status quo prevailing prior to petitioner's removal as stockholder, director, chairman, and CEO of TRLEI in 2017. So as you can see, Even with a plain reading of the SQAO, there is nothing in the SQAO which authorizes a physical takeover of the premises. There is nothing in the SQAO which authorizes Mr. Okada to put his people in the board. There is nothing in the SQAO which authorizes Mr. Okada to reorganize the corporation or in any way take control of the corporation. It merely directs the reinstatement of the status quo in 2017. And what was that status quo? The status whereby he only had one share, which he did not even own, because it was merely entrusted to him by TRAL. So what do we see here? They were able to get a status quo ante order from the Honorable Supreme Court. However, as worded, the SQAO can only be complied with by one party, and that is not TRLEI. The owner of the share of Mr. Okada, the representation of Mr. Okada in TRLEI was granted by TRAL, which was never made a party to the case. So the only party, to repeat, that could have given effect and that could have complied with the SQAO was not a party to the case. TRLEI, much as it would want to comply, has no power to grant Mr. Okada a share that it does not own. So even if we assume that TRLEI can somehow reinstate Mr. Okada to his one share, which he doesn't even own, I'm sure that as business reporters, you would understand that being a mere shareholder of one share of a corporation that has more than 5 billion shares of stocks cannot entitle you in any manner to take control of management, to take over the premises of the business, and to forcibly evict everyone who would stand in your way. So this is what happened. They have perverted the group of Mr. Kazuo Okada, Tony Boy Cojuangco, Dindo Spalletta, abetted by their lawyer, Attorney Florentino Herrera, and their goons. They have perverted the SQAO issued by the Supreme Court. And they knew this very well. You know why? Days before the violent takeover last Tuesday, they in fact filed, last May 4, a motion asking the Supreme Court that they be given access to the Okada Manila premises. They filed a manifestation with an urgent omnibus motion asking the Supreme Court that they be allowed to gain access to the hotel. So this is a recognition that they needed an additional order from the court to effect that physical takeover. However, what did they do? Instead of waiting for the resolution on that urgent motion, they decided we can't wait any longer. We're that impatient. We don't need the authority of the Supreme Court. They decided that we're not waiting for the resolution on our motion. We'll go ahead and take over with violence, if necessary, the physical premises of Okada Manila. And that's what happened last Tuesday. Mr. Hajime Tokuda was kidnapped. Mr. Mitch Satate was forcibly evicted from his offices and was kept away from the management area. The same with Mr. James Lorenzana. In fact, Mr. Lorenzana suffered from a huge laceration on his left arm. And he has a medical legal certificate to show for this because he was violently taken away from his office. So all this violence affected not just the executives, even the lawyers who tried to assist became the victim of violence. As you can see, there were goons, there were police officers, there were private guards, and they even at one point turned off the electricity where we were located so that we could be prevented from meeting. Because at that time, we decided to convene a shareholders meeting. It was towards the tail end of that meeting when they decided to again enter the conference area and forcibly evict all of us from the premises. So now, in the aftermath, what has happened? TRAL, which owns TRLEI and which was never made a party to the case, has already now issued a certification. I think it's also something that we can flash on the screen. This is the director's certificate issued by Mr. Kenshi Asano and Mrs. Takako Okada on behalf of TRAL, whereby TRAL is essentially affirming that it is not recognizing Mr. Kazuo Okada as its representative in TRLEI and affirming that Mr. Kazuo Okada has no right whatsoever to take control of the company, to take over the premises, and all his acts and the acts of his cohorts, Mr. Tony Boy Cojuangco, Mr. Dindo Espeleta, Attorney Florentino Herrera, and the rest are void and will not be recognized by the owner of TRLEI. So whoever transacts business with this sham board are put on notice that the owner of TRLEI will not give effect to any of those transactions. So this is a warning, this is a public warning to everyone who will transact with this sham board. Their acts are all void and will not be recognized by the owners of TRLEI. So I believe we will be giving out copies of the certification so that you can look at the details of the certification. But after what happened, as you can see, there wasn't just an illegal takeover. There wasn't just a violation or disrespect, if not perversion, of the SQAO, which misled everybody, including perhaps our government authorities. They committed serious criminal acts, and that's why this morning we went to the Department of Justice and filed 3 separate criminal complaints. The first complaint was filed by Mr. Hajime Tokuda for kidnapping or serious illegal detention, grave coercion, and unjust vexation. The second complaint was filed by Mr. Mitch Satate, who's beside me right now. He filed a complaint for grave coercion and likewise for unjust vexation. And the third complaint was filed by another director, Mr. James Lorenzana. He was the one who suffered from lacerations. He filed a complaint for grave coercion, physical injuries, and unjust vexation against Mr. Okada, Tony Boy Cojuangco, Dindo Espeleta, Attorney Florentino Herrera, and all those who were responsible for the violent takeover last Tuesday. And so we're hopeful that our government authorities and we're hopeful that our courts will take judicial notice of all this violence and illegalities that have transpired. And as more facts are coming to light, hopefully our courts and our government agencies will take this into consideration when they act in the future. And we are hopeful as well that this matter will finally be resolved and the rightful owners and managers of TRLEI would be back soon in Okada, Manila. At this point, we'd like to welcome whatever questions you may have or requests for clarifications regarding what we have narrated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Starr, for giving us a comprehensive background on the situation that we are facing right now. So at this point, we would like to, we're opening the floor for any questions which our friends from media may have, both for those who are here and also online. So we do have, I believe, a microphone there in the middle, or we can have someone bring the microphone to you. If you have questions, and please state your name and affiliation as you ask your question. So do we have the first question from the floor? Anyone? Please feel free to approach the microphone in the middle of the floor. Okay, any questions? Yes, I think, sir. Okay, please state your name and affiliation and your question. Thank you.
Yes, okay. This is Ed Paulo Salting from Manila Times, ma'am. To any, to both of you, to both. What will TRLEI do now regarding about the properties management now regarding recent events? In generalization for now, ma'am.
All right, so I think
Yeah. On the legal aspect, we're definitely going to the Supreme Court to inform it exactly what transpired. And we are hopeful, we are hoping we will ask for a remedy that will enable the peaceful return of the real management of TRLEI to Okada Manila.
I see. That's it for now. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Thank you to our friend from Manila Times. Okay. Next question. Anyone? Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jerome Morales from Reuters. Thanks for this briefing. So right now, Mr. Kazuo Okada and his camp are running the operation. So how much is this losing you? Have junkets been coming to you left and right, complaining of this? What changes have they complained of in terms of operations? You mentioned earlier about the employees. So now can you tell us more about the business? How much are you losing every day with this? What's happening? Thank you.
In terms of your question, we don't have the answer because today we do not know in what way they are operating. We do get some information from time to time by our suppliers or partners. We know that a number of employees were fired for terminated for non-valid reasons. So we're really unclear on what they're doing and how it's being operated.
Okay. Thank you, Mitch. Follow-up question, Jerome?
Yes, follow up, please. How about the bankers? Of course, you have some debts to settle. Have you talked to your bankers, to your lenders, that could there be moratorium or things like this because of what has happened? And are there any debts that are due to be paid, big debts that are due to be paid soon? Thank you.
Of course, the banks are concerned about the current situation. From our side, we are in continuous discussions with the banks from a legal side and also from a business side. The banks are monitoring carefully the issue. And of course, they will also have their legal opinions, their business stance. So we're waiting for their final judgment also on how they will handle this situation from their end.
Okay. Thank you. Sir?
Good afternoon, Franco Baronio from the Manila Times. Can you share to us more about the cases you filed the DOJ today? Why are Okada and Tony Boy Cojuangco included in the filing of charges? Because how will you prove it? They were directly involved in that harassment case. Thank you.
Magandang umaga po, magandang hapon. We included Mr. Tony Boycowanco, Dinos Paleta, et al. Because they were the ones who brought the goons that evicted all of the complainants from the premises. Sila po yung may dala. They were there in the morning of Tuesday last week. They were the ones giving instructions, and repeatedly when the security personnel who accosted the complainants or who forcefully evicted the complainants were being asked why they were doing it. They repeatedly said na inutusan po kami ng bagong management. And inamin nila na ang nagdala sa kanila yung bagong management na dumating nung umagang yon. At ito na po ay walang iba. It's documented, they were there and they were the ones meeting. Kung nakita niyo po dun sa video, merong isang conference room na kung saan parang kinokordon siya ng police officers, yung maraming security staff na even I could not penetrate. They were inside that conference room and everybody there was taking orders from them. So sa ilalim po ng principle of conspiracy, sa ating batas. Hindi man sila yung physically nag-kidnap kay Mr. Tokuda at nag-evict kina Mitch and Mr. James Lorenzana. If it's upon their orders and if it was actually part of their plan, then they are considered equally liable as the people who actually kidnapped and as the people who actually employed violence as co-conspirators. So they're criminally liable po under the law.
Follow-up question, sir?
So yung na-evict na mga executives ngayon ng Tiger Phil, hindi na makapasok po sa mismong Okada? Walang
Hindi na po, wala na pong access, ni hindi sila papasukan sa sarili nilang kumpanya.
lahat po sila.
Lahat po.
So anong pinaka latest na dapat gawin nyo for you to have access to Okada Manila?
Well, we're hoping to get some clarity from the Supreme Court, some clarification from the Supreme Court kasi ginamit nila yung order ng Korte Suprema yung tinatawag nating status quo ante order. Yun po yung ginamit nila. Kahit na nakita nyo naman na wala doon sa order ng Korte Suprema yung pinaggagawa nila. Ginamit po nila yung order na yon as purported authority para to employ violence and to take over the hotel. So ngayon po, kailangan nating tawagin ng pansin ng Korte Suprema doon sa pambabastos na ginawa ng grupo ni Mr. Okada doon sa kanilang SQAO. And hopefully, we will get some clarification from the Supreme Court kung tama nga ba yung ginawa nilang implementation, purported implementation of the status quo ante order.
So, ma'am, Kuwangko and Okada's camp na naglabas sila ng statement na business as usual sa Okada.
Hindi po maaaring maging business as usual dahil unang-una hindi po sila nararapat na nandun. At katulad nga po ng sinabi natin kanina, yung may-ari ng Okada Manila, ng TRLEI, ay nagsasabi na hindi nila kinakilala yung grupo ni na Tony Boy Kuwangko, ni na Kazuo Okada at Dindo Espeleta. So anumang business o negosyo o transaksyon na gawin nila bilang sham board of directors, bilang peking board, ay hindi po kikilalanin ng may-ari ng TRLEI.
So there's no such thing as business as usual sa Okada ngayon?
Hindi po natin talagang matatawag na business as usual. But I think they're deceiving everybody and therefore ino-operate po nila yung hotel. But I wouldn't call it business as usual po dahil pati yung source of funds nila ang may-ari po ng mga bank accounts are TRLEI and the banks will not just allow them to source funds from these accounts.
So wala kayong steps to counteract this, yung tuloy-tuloy na nila dahil illegal sabi niyo nga. So walang
Ito po ay masusi pa naming pinag-aaralan kung maliban po sa pagtawag ng pansin ng Korte Suprema, meron pa kaming ibang pwedeng gawin. Makakaasa po kayo na gagawin po namin yon hanggat ito po ay legal. Pero sa ngayon, kailangan naming urgently to call the attention of the Supreme Court.
How long do you think will the Supreme Court respond to your ano yung usually na?
Well, hopeful po kami na the Supreme Court will act on it very soon dahil nga po napaka-uncertain ng fate ng Okada Manila at pati na po 5,000 strong employees. Maraming nangangamba na baka hindi sila sumeldo sa susunod na payroll cycle. So this needs to be settled. Kailangan po sana, and we're hopeful na aaktuhan naman po ito ng ating mga authorities.
Going back to the cases you filed sa DOJ today, involved rin yung mga nag-harass, physically harass the people.
Yung pong mga, sige po, siguro po sa kaguluhan, maintindihan ninyo na hindi namin nakuha yung mga pangalan na isa't isa. At sa totoo lang po, we tried our best to ask for their names. Nakita nyo naman po sa video, sino po kayo, ano pong pangalan ninyo. At nakita ninyo yung mga private guards na bit-bit nila, na nakabarong, walang pangalan. So intentionally, para hindi makilala. So, hindi namin po mapangalanan lahat, pero yung mga natandaan po namin na nakapangalan, pinangalanan po namin doon sa complaint. Makikita niyo po yan sa copy na binigay sa inyo. At nilagay din po namin doon na sinasama namin sa demanda yung John and Jane Does. Mga John Does na tinatawag natin. So, isa po yung pamamaraan sa batas na kung hindi mo makilala sa ngayon, yung mga involved, pero may mga taong ganon, hindi mo lang mapangalanan, pwede mo muna siyang i-designate sa complaint na John Doe or Jane Doe. At kung nalaman na yung pangalan later on, pwede pong ipalit yung pangalan nila doon sa kaso.
Yung mga PNP operatives, kasama rin o?
Hindi po namin sinama ang mga PNP operatives dahil hindi rin po natin alam kung ano yung representasyon nila doon sa mga PNP operatives. Sa ngayon po, pinag-aaralan din namin ang aming mga remedyo dapat gawin dahil po sa participation, unfortunate participation ng Parañaque Police. But we're hoping, we are at this point assuming that similarly they were deceived by the group of Mr. Kazuo Okada.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a question from the table here in front. Please, sir.
Hi po, good noon. I'm Ralph Rivas of Rappler. Two questions for me po. First question is, if the parent company does not recognize the takeover of TRLEI, what are the implications financially? What can you do? Are you cutting? Is the parent cutting off? How exactly? And there was mention of loans earlier. So if you can give, if you can disclose how much we are talking about, that's my first question po.
Okay. So we'll have Mitch to respond.
Actually, sorry, but the question you're asking is a bit tricky because, as mentioned by an attorney earlier, we're part of a TRLEI is part of a larger group that is Universal Entertainment Corporation. That is a Japanese company. So a lot of loans are held as a group and are not directly only with TRLEI. So of course, having loans that also cover part of the business of TRLEI has an impact, but it's not only limited to TRLEI. So I don't. It's a bit difficult to answer straight your question actually.
Okay,
Sorry.
but the follow-up on that is TRLEI dependent financially on the parent and the parent of the parent, and can you cut off? Do you have that ability?
TRLEI is functioning on its own. So I wouldn't say if your question is because TRLEI is, for example, non-profitable and continuously depending on UEC or TRA, which is a Hong Kong corporation, the answer would be no. TRLEI is on it is independent financially.
And the second question is the ultimate parent is Okada Holdings Limited, where Mr. Kazuo Okada owns over 46%. If you can explain the relationship and if it does impact on the case, and did he assert that claim being the in regards to being the ultimate parent, Okada Holdings?
So, I'll just answer the first part, and if you have the. So as you mentioned, in Hong Kong, so the ultimate parent company of the whole group, including Universal Entertainment, is Okada Holdings Limited, so a Hong Kong corporation. As you stated, Mr. Kazuo Okada owns 40 plus percent, 46%, 45%, but he's still a minority shareholder. The largest shareholder is Mr. Tomohiro Okada, who is his direct son, and he owns over 52 or 53%. So he is technically the majority shareholder, and not Mr. Kazuo Okada. So that's also a very important point to be noted.
In addition to what Mitch stated, it is very important also to let everyone know, because this is again a fact that was concealed by Mr. Kazuo Okada. Even in the Supreme Court, he never disclosed this crucial fact. As regards the ultimate parent company, which is OHL, of course, he is claiming that he's still the majority shareholder of that. And when he said that in the Supreme Court, he submitted a 2016 GIS, General Information Sheet, showing that he is purportedly the majority shareholder. That 2016 GIS is a very old one. The most current one, a 2021 GIS, shows that it is his son, Mr. Tomohiro Okada, which now owns majority of OHL, and therefore has control of the corporation. They tried to question the majority ownership of Mr. Tomohiro Okada before the Japanese court and the Hong Kong court. And I have here with me, we can likewise give you a copy. This is the final ruling of the Japanese Supreme Court affirming the majority ownership of Mr. Tomohiro Okada, the son of the ultimate parent company. And this final ruling of the Japanese Supreme Court was honored by even the Hong Kong court. The Hong Kong court deferred to this particular ruling of the Japanese court. So Mr. Kazuo Okada has no basis whatsoever under the 2021 GIS of OHL, as well as this final court ruling by the Japanese court that says that it is now Mr. Tomohiro Okada that owns majority of the shareholdings in OHL.
Okay, thank you po.
Thank you. I saw some hands raised here on the right side. Sir, please. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Cliff Benzon of Nikkei. Just wanna get a picture of the management change after June 1. So how many are the board of directors, and were they all replaced by the group of Mr. Tony Boy Cojuangco?
We have actually, we were able to secure a copy of the secretary's certificate that they had been presenting to the banks. If my associates can just provide me, because there are all new names in that secretary's certificate. In fact, the only person that they retained in the new board, and it's only because they're compelled to, would be the corporate secretary, Attorney Michelle Lazaro. However, they have been excluding her from all the meetings, and they have appointed instead an assistant corporate secretary. So as far as I know, that's the only old name there in the new board. If I can have a copy of the secretary's certificate. So, before the violent takeover, the members of the board of TRLEI are as follows. Mr. Byron Yip, who was also the president and COO, Mr. Kenji Sugiyama, Mr. Hans van der Sand, who was also treasurer and CFO, the late attorney Manuel M. Lazaro, who was the chairperson, Mr. Toji Takuchi, Mr. Kenshi Asano, Mr. James Lorenzana, and Mrs. Takako Okada. This was prior to the violent takeover. After the purported takeover, and actually they did a reorganizational meeting even before the actual physical takeover. This is what we call the sham board. The sham board would be composed of the following: Mr. Kazuo Okada as purported chairman, Stephen Wolstenholme, Mr. Antonio Cojuangco, purportedly the new president. They still retained the late attorney Manuel M. Lazaro, then Mr. Dindo Espeleta, who is purportedly now the vice chairman and treasurer, Mr. Takahiro Usui, Kengo Takeda, Yoshinao Negishi, Tetsuya Yokota, Hiroshi Kawamura. Now, as we said, the status quo ante-order that they are invoking sought to reinstate the status prior to his removal. But again, this new board that they constituted is also not conforming with the board composition prior to his removal, because prior to his removal, it was Okada, Westenholme, Ray David, Antonio Coanco, Takahiro Usui, Kengo Tageda, Yoshino Nigishi, and the late Attorney Manuel Lazaro. So it's not the same board. They've constituted a totally new board, which has no basis in fact or in law. So those are the changes.
And before the takeover, Attorney Paro, so apparently there were two boards, something like that, right? It appears that way.
No, there wasn't. There was only one board.
Well, you said that the sham.
The sham board was only constituted in May 2.
Okay.
In May 2, after the SQAO order was issued. So they had a sham reorganizational meeting and elected this new board, but it had no force and effect because they had nothing to do with the company whatsoever.
Okay, so before that, and from 2017, it was the group of Mr. Satate who were in management control. So the group of Mr. Okada didn't have any hand in the management of the casino named after him.
To be accurate, myself, I wasn't there since 2017, but as attorney mentioned, mainly led by Byron Yip, who's our president of our current board. So he was in place and leading the group since 2017.
Okay.
Mr. Okada had no participation whatsoever.
Since 2017 po, ma'am, no?
Yes.
And then my next question is maybe more of a follow-up on the finances. Mr. Satate, when did you join the management of?
Last year.
Last year, okay. Do you have because I saw a news item that the prospects for the gaming industry have been improving because of the reopening of economies, right? So do you have any revenue projection for Okada Manila this year? The original revenue projection before these incidents unfolded last week.
Sorry, I cannot disclose number because we don't disclose numbers. But the only thing I can say, as it was mentioned in my statement, is that we were back to numbers pre-pandemic. Basically, we were almost there, so everything was almost back to normal. So if you can maybe check our numbers that were announced in 2019, we're very close to achieving the same goals this year.
And because of what happened, including your warnings, right, to parties that that might engage with the management that you're disputing, how will that affect the prospects of Okada Manila following this incident?
For sure, obviously, as a management, we have plans. We run the place, so their business objective, and we had high hopes for this year and also onwards. So, but we don't know. I mean, since we don't share the same strategy, and we believe that Sham Board has no experience in running such a place. So we don't believe that they would be able to achieve what we were looking at.
And last question, to be sure, the cases you filed today, the kidnapping and the grave coercion, even if you succeed, they won't necessarily, change the what happened in the management of.
No,
Okada
yes,
Manila,
you're
It's a
right.
separate,
You're right. This is seeking justice. This is us seeking justice for what they did, for the violence that they perpetrated, and to send a message to the public that those who may be minded to employ force and these underhanded and dirty tactics in pursuing their greed will not be rewarded. So they may be in control right now of Okada Manila, but they will have to account for all their actions. And to your question earlier, we're really hopeful that this is just a momentary disruption in the smooth operations of Okada Manila. We are hopeful that this is just a temporary situation and it will be back to normal shortly.
And okay lang ba one more?
Yes,
And
go ahead.
and PAGCOR appears to have sided with the Okada group, and they are the regulators. So how optimistic are you that you can actually?
Well, we have been given assurance by PAGCOR that they shall remain neutral. It's just that they were we can surmise that even this government agency was misled by the group of Mr. Kazuo Okada into acting the way they did. But we are in constant communications also with PAGCOR being the regulatory agency, and we're hoping that we would be able to clarify things with them in the same manner that we seek to clarify things with the Supreme Court.
When do you intend to? Are you gonna do an actual filing to the Supreme Court?
We've actually prepared the urgent motion already. We're hoping to file, if not within today, tomorrow.
What do you call that motion, attorney?
It's basically an urgent motion seeking the clarification of the metes and bounds of the SQAO and confirming that the violence that was committed was not in any way intended by the SQAO.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much for those questions, Cliff from Nikkei. So at this point, I will mention some questions raised via Zoom. So we have here a question from Manila Shimbun. Do you see any negligence on the part of the Philippine government, especially the police authorities, for their possible failure to stop violence last May 31?
We would not want to ascribe blame this early. We're actually looking at the facts and we're trying to find out what representations were made to the police, to the sheriff, to the courts, to the various government agencies. We are quite certain that the group of Mr. Okada and Tony Boy Cojuangco made several misrepresentations even to these agencies. So definitely we will hold accountable those who participated in the illegal takeover, but we will do so after having carefully studied the facts.
Thank you, Attorney Starr. Another question from our online audience, from Victor Cabuenas of GMA News Online. There's a request to clarify. Does Mr. Tomohiro Okada recognize the takeover, or does he share the same sentiment that this was illegal?
It's definitely the latter, since Mr. Tomohiro Okada directly is involved more on the parent, from looking from us on the parent company level, which is Universal Entertainment Corporation. So he hardly condemns this act, and he is all in with Universal Entertainment Corporation Group, which we're a part of.
Thank you for that, Mitch. So at this point, do we have further questions from the floor? Maybe a show of hands for other follow-up questions. Okay, I do have one more here from the online audience, from Bernadette of Daily Tribune. So would you claim that there was conspiracy between Kazuo Okada and the group of Tony Boy Cojuangco when Kazuo in fact sued him in 2017? And also the question of whether Mr. Cojuangco's involvement in takeover wasn't premeditated. So I think this refers to what happened in 2017 when they were in opposing situations, and now they seem to be together. So
yes,
this is the question.
Well, sometimes, when interests collide, new partnerships form, and definitely Mr. Cojuangco had already been is no longer connected with TRLEI for some time. After him, Mr. Dindo Espeleta also severed ties with TRLEI. So these people, we indicated in the complaint that these people definitely had an axe to grind against TRLEI. And so when their interests apparently intersected, not collided, intersected, it was then that this conspiracy was hatched. We know that they're in conspiracy because they were the ones in the meeting last Tuesday morning. Mr. Kazuo Okada was there via Zoom from Japan, and it was with him that Tony Boy Cojuangco, Espeleta, and the rest were conferring on what to do in that violent takeover. So definitely there was conspiracy, and that is in fact the basis of our criminal complaints against these personalities.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Starr. Yes, we have another question from Mr. Morales.
Yes.
Jerome.
Just to clarify, last night, Universal said accused PAGCOR of graft and corruption. So, are there any steps from Universal, from Tiger, to make maybe PAGCOR be held liable, or anything that you want PAGCOR to do, especially with this accusation from Universal?
Well, I'm not too sure if that is accurate. I believe that the statement of Universal was to the effect that if PAGCOR will choose to be biased against TRL, the real board of TRLEI, and favor the sham board, then as we know under our law, manifest bias is an act constituting graft and corruption. But as I said, we are definitely still looking into the facts, and we are not minded to make any wholesale accusation of graft. We believe really that the misrepresentation, the malice, is on the part of the group of Tony Boy Cojuangco and Mr. Kazuo Okada. And if ever government agencies and government officers are acting in a certain way, we believe that they were definitely deceived by the group of Mr. Kazuo Okada. So that's why we are reaching out. We are definitely reaching out to PAGCOR to inform them of the full facts, so that everyone may be guided properly.
I see. And for clarification, when did you file your motion for reconsideration against the status quo anti-order?
The status quo anti-order was issued on a Friday. I believe that we filed the first motion for reconsideration was filed the Monday after. Can we have the date of the filing of the first motion for reconsideration? I'm addressing my associates. So it was the Monday after the issuance of the SQAO. And we filed a second motion for reconsideration after that. So definitely these two motions have not yet been resolved and still remain pending.
Right. And then the next step, the next communication you will have with Supreme Court is what you mentioned today or tomorrow, the clarification on the bounds of the order.
The coverage and the actual meaning of the status quo anti-order.
I see. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. So I think we have time for perhaps one more question before we wrap up today's press conference. Do we have further questions from the floor? So anyone would like to ask? From our online audience, do we have one? No? Okay. All right. So on that note, we would like to thank our audience here, our friends from media for coming over, both here in person and online, for taking the time to listen, to our story. We thank Mr. Michiaki Satate and Attorney Star Elamparo for being our resource persons this morning. So again, should you have any follow-up questions, concerns, or what have you, please approach any of the team here in our group, and we will be happy to extend more responses or whatever it is that you may need from us. So thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.